Okie dokie, boys and girls, it is day 306 of bulking to 75 kilos with calisthenics only, and today we have a hamstring day, and we should see strength going up compared to last time, basically, because it's been 5 days since the heavy or the intense squat session. Not heavy, it was only 50 kilos, but it was also 500 reps, so I was quite beaten down from that session, and that's basically what training is. Training is a bunch of highs and lows. You are at a high when you start your training, and then during the training you go into a low state, a low energy state, a state of tiredness and exhaustion. You don't get stronger during trainings because during the training you're beating up your body, and it's afterwards, the second half of the Master Roshi training way, where you have to, eat and sleep plenty. That's where you get stronger. So training is this cycle, I guess, of highs and lows. But when you look at it over a long period of time, you're diagonally going up. You're making progress, and it's very important to manage that. Because if you train and you get tired, right, and then you don't recover enough, and you train again and you get even more tired, right, you're gonna have a downwards diagonal. You're gonna regress. You're not gonna become stronger. You're gonna become weaker over time because you're not allowing your body to rest. But nonetheless, you have these cycles of high and low, but whatever part of those two you're in at the moment, what you have to do is the same. You have to do your best, and that does not mean going as hard as possible. That means taking the best option. So when you have energy, make use of it. Train hard. But when you don't have energy, also make use of it. Recover, and perhaps do a little bit less training, or don't do your training as intense as you usually would, but maybe focus on form, but make use of whatever state you are in. Take the cards that you are given on the day that you are training and use them to your advantage, because doing your best, like I said, it's not going as hard as possible. It's just taking the option that's gonna get you towards your goal. So for me, in my case, a couple days ago, I was very tired from the squatting session, right? At that time, it doesn't really hold any meaning to go hard and to throw form out of the window and to try and beat myself down even more. So I focused on form. But now, 5 days have passed, and basically I'm starting to recover. I have more energy again. So now it's time to see if I am becoming stronger. The last hamstring session was very weak. That's my point of comparison. Today I'm gonna try and beat that. I'm gonna try and do more Nordic curls than last time, but perhaps even if I become very strong, if I see that I have become very strong, if I see that I have recovered more than expected, basically, I can maybe go for an all-time PR, And that's basically how you manage, Put your energy out when you have it, but save it when you don't. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna head outside, warm up, of course, very well because it's cold. It's cold outside, I guess 12 degrees or something. And yeah, I'm just, like I said, gonna warm up and then do some Nordic curls. Today, I'm gonna go for the sets of 8 again. Basically, last time I wanted to go for sets of 8 as well, but I was feeling too tired, so instead I just did one set of 10 reps. But today I wanna see if I can get a couple sets of 8, perhaps 3 sets and a bit, or 4 sets even, and then I would have a new PR. So yeah, that's it. That's gonna be the first part of the training. Let's go. All right, I feel a bit better compared to last time, so let's put the timer on and head for set number 2. One set at a time, and then yeah, we will see where we end up. Alright, I just matched my PR, 3 sets of 8, but now I have the opportunity to beat my personal best, because last time when I got the 3 sets, I just ended the workout. Now today, whatever I do, I can at least attempt set number 4, and no matter how many reps I get, whether it's 8 or 5 or 1 or 0, by just attempting it, that's a personal best as well. That's a personal best in the mind, because today I had the mindset to go for set number 4. So no matter what happens, the next set is gonna be a win. Oh, fuck you. Alrighty, so 5 reps on the last set, which equals 37 reps in total, which is actually 1 more rep than I ever did in one training on the Nordic curl. So that's a PR, but I have to make a little correction, you know. I mentioned that, like, even attempting a PR set, it's a win, and that's true, but if you think about it, every set is a win, you know, because, you know, PRs they don't happen out of nothing, you know, they don't come out of thin air. They happen because you trained for them. And every training, you know, you have to show up, and every training consists of, you know, 1 or multiple sets, and every set consists of 1 or multiple reps. So every time that you attempt a set, every time that you attempt a rep or you go for a rep, every time you basically do something that you don't really maybe want to do necessarily, or maybe you don't feel comfortable doing, it's a fucking win, you know. Even like, especially on the days that are hard, you know, if you didn't get enough sleep or something and you just feel like shit and you know your training is gonna suck, but then you still show up and you assess what your 100% is for that day, that's a fucking win, you know. The only time you really lose is when you don't try anything, when you tell yourself, or when you try and convince yourself that it's not even worth it, but it's always worth to do something, even if it's way less than you were supposed to do or that you were planning to do. You know, there's nothing like doing too little in one day, you know. Maybe you were supposed to, or you were trying to go for a leg PR or like maybe a planche attempt, but you feel weak. Well, you can still train lightly, you know, and maybe for that day, because you were tired, that's what you were supposed to do, you know. But oftentimes, you know, the real losing battle is not having a bad training, it's not training at all. So every set you do, it's a fucking win, because you fucking did it, right? Or you attempted it, and that's the most important part. But that's the same for the sets that are coming up right now. I don't want to do these hip extensions, to be honest. Like, my surviving, or my mind trying to survive, you know, the voice in my head is telling me, yeah, you can skip today, you know, because it's the survival instinct of the brain to preserve your body. But, you know, at those times, that's the most important. So I'm gonna do 3 sets of hip extensions, because I know that they are low impact and that they potentially prevent hip injuries. And they're basically, you know, it's easy gains, it's easy money. So I'm gonna have to do them, even though it's difficult and I don't want to do it. And that's another win, right? Even though it might not lead to a PR directly. But, you know, all the little things that you do, even if they don't have any direct changes or any direct impact, they will add up, you know. If you have grains of sand and you keep stacking them up, eventually you're getting a mountain, which, you know, on the mountain, that's where your goal is. That's where you can find your achievements. But yeah, enough yapping. Let's do some hip extensions. 3 sets, 3 wins, and yeah, nothing else to it. Alright, and that's it for today's training, at least for you, because I have a couple more battles to win, you know. Nothing special, nothing difficult, just tedious, you know, and boring. And so I oftentimes don't want to do it, but you know, I'm gonna do some rehab, some strengthening for my feet, because they keep me healthy for running basically. And even like these small efforts, you know, basically no matter how small the effort is, if there's like something in your mind telling you not to do it, it's probably still worth doing, right? Especially the rehab exercises, the stretching exercises, which I often skip myself, right? Those tedious, small little things, right? If you have the time, do them, because they will make a difference as well. Not only in your physical body, but also in your mindset, because every time you do something you really didn't want to do, or you thought it was tedious, or you thought, you know, you were too lazy, but then you did it anyway, that's a little win in your mind, you know, and those wins, they stack up. When you get to like the real performance part, where you, like the real battle, the real, like, let's say you're doing a tournament or something in calisthenics, when you get there, or you have like a running tournament, an event, whatever, when you get there and you get tired, right, and you have to look back at all the training you did, you can either tell yourself, well, you know, in the small details, I slacked off, right? If you have to think about it, it's gonna play on your mind. But if you can think to yourself, like, holy shit, you know, I did those rehab exercises. I attempted those sets that I didn't want to attempt. You know, even no matter how the energy was, you know, no matter if the energy was high, no matter if the energy was low, I was disciplined. I did what I was supposed to do. If you can think that way in the moments you're tired, it's gonna help you moving forward. So every small battle matters, right? No matter how small the effort is, it matters, because it adds up and it becomes a mountain when you take it all together. But yeah, that's it for today's video. I'm gonna do my rehab exercise. Holy shit, I'm gonna do my rehab exercises. I'm gonna have some dinner, and then I'll see you tomorrow for for an exciting session full of planches and even more full of push-ups. I can mention that already, but you will see tomorrow.